Welcome to another episode of the Bulldog Bark. I'm Caden. I'm joined with
Janine, Meadow, and Carrington.
and our special guest, Heath, Director of Broadcasting for the IHSAA. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to start off by asking, how did you get started into broadcasting and what led you into the IHSAA?
Well, it really all started kind of where you guys are right now. I started doing this in high school. Don't hold this against me, but I went to Martinsville High School, right down the road, and we had just a great program, broadcast program there. It was one of the top in the state at the time, still is up there, but we were really one of the only high schools doing kind of a traditional broadcast program at the time. We had a great instructor, Eric Meyer, who came from a local affiliate up in Indianapolis and then was given the local access TV station and also ran the program at Martinsville. So I kind of fell in love or caught the bug, if you will, when I was in high school, similar to you guys. It was the only reason I went to Ball State was because I started in high school. Right after high school, I went to MS Communications, which is now Radio 1, which is, we owned 4 radio stations across the state of Indiana, and we had a really unique partnership with the IHSAA, where we would do, we were their flagship radio station for all the state championships, but also we had this really unique partnership to where we were doing live high school video on the internet of high school athletics, and it was one of the things that wasn't being done really around the country at the time, was putting high school sports, video of high school sports on the internet, live video. And then while working with the IHSA, got to know a lot of them, and one thing led to another, and we started IHSATV.org. They needed somebody to kind of run everything, and they came and asked me if I wanted to do it. It was an easy yes.
So what are your key responsibilities for Director of Broadcasting?
Sure. Well, I run the Champions Radio Network, which is 88 stations, radio stations across the state of Indiana that run our content, our PSAs, they run our state championships, they do a lot of all of our pairing shows. So we've got football pairing show coming up soon. And then I also manage any of our television contracts. So for a long time we were with, it was Fox Sports when I started, Fox Sports Indiana, then it became Bally Sports there for a while. So anytime we would have any sort of television contract, I would run that. But the biggest responsibility I have is our internet portal, which is IHSATV.org. And I manage that. We've got 23 commercial affiliates, but what's really exciting is we have 73 high schools that are doing traditional broadcasts now, and most of them, really all of them, put their content on IHSATV.org and other places, of course, but we are a vehicle for them to do that. And then we've got 325 schools that have automated cameras that also put live content on our website. So as you can probably tell, that's really the big part of my day is how do I manage over 400 broadcasters, if you will, and live streamers that put their content on IHSATV.org. And then everything that comes along with that, promoting it, driving people to the site, driving people to the content we're doing original content within our network. We have a podcast that we do as well. The IHSA Insider, Jane Schott is the host of that, and I produce it and edit it and put it out. Again, similar, you guys know that routine, I'm sure. So yeah, that's a lot of that is what I do. A lot of social, trying to drive people to the site or drive people really to a contest as well. We make a lot of our money at the IHSAA. What we like to say is butts and seats, right? People buying tickets to games. So we hope that people will watch some content or listen to some content that we put out, and it will drive them to a contest or to Monrovia to watch a game or to one of our state championship or semi-state events or tournament events.
What changes or initiatives have you accomplished while doing your role as Director of Broadcasting?
Well, there's really 2 big ones that I always like to talk about. The first one is we only did pairing. When I started, we only did pairing shows for football, girls basketball, boys basketball. And I thought, but we have so many team sports, and we're doing literal ping pong draws for all of these sectional rounds. Why are we not doing pairing shows for all of these? So when I started, we're now doing pairing shows for every team sport. In fact, we've even added tennis, and we've added wrestling, a wrestling state final show that will show who wrestles who in the first round of the wrestling state championship. So we've been able to increase what we're doing for our sports and for our student athletes right away. That was one of the easy ones to do. Again, it's not terribly difficult. It is a lot of graphic building because obviously you have to have brackets for every single one. So there's some work you have to do that you have to be a little meticulous on. That you have to actually overlook. You don't want to overlook anybody or spell something wrong. So there is a lot that, again, you guys know very well, doing your class projects and stuff. So, but it's really rewarding.
What challenges have you and your team faced while being in all that process?
I mean, a tremendous amount, right? We do a lot of those pairing shows on Sundays, just in particular this one on Sundays. Well, as you guys know, you can't practice or have a game or any sort of contest on a Sunday. So there was at the very beginning, we had to have a long conversation about, well, how do we allow these teams together when it's technically outside of our bylaws? So we were able to kind of work through that process and find, okay, well, this is gathering as long as there's no chalk talk, if you will, no talking about plays, no talking about the upcoming opponents, whatever it might be. Just have this be a camaraderie, a team building moment. Again, we're allowing a lot of leeway there, and we're hoping kind of that these coaches and these schools, these parents and student athletes will follow those rules. But it's really exciting, right? And so that's a big one. And then just no two schools created equally either. So when we talk about challenges, networks are going to be different at every school. You guys have this phenomenal huge room that you guys can do your broadcast out of. Not every school has this. A lot of them are just operating out of a closet or a classroom type of deal. Similar to what Mr. Janes had to do when he first started. He was operating off of a small space, but you do what you do, and you do the best you can with what you have given to you. So, when we go to an event, every facility is different. Every network is different. Every camera placement is different, whether that be in a gymnasium, whether that be in Lucas Oil, right? I mean, it's two completely different animals. So, there's a lot of trying to figure all that out. There's a lot of people who say, all of this should be free. We should be able to watch everything for free because we were able to watch things for free on television all of our lives. Well, things change, right? I mean, over time, things have definitely changed, and we're working really hard to keep things reasonable as far as cost goes. There's no cost to Monrovia to put their content on IHSAATV.org. That was a big thing that we've been pushing for forever. Is we don't want there to be any sort of barrier to entry to put your content on IHSAA TV. Just like there's no cost for Monrovia to be a member of the IHSAA, to be a physical member of the IHSAA. There's no cost to that. You guys have to follow the rules that are set forth by the National Federation and then adopted rules by the IHSAA in the same way that Monrovia High School Broadcast Group here follows the rules and the affiliate relations rules to be an affiliate of the IHSAA, of IHSAA TV and the Champions Network. So, there's just a lot of little things like that. And one thing I didn't get to mention, and earlier you asked me, what were your biggest accomplishments? We are always looking, there's been a big push really by me and a couple other in the building to find more female voices for female sports. So that's been a big challenge as well. Is, as you guys know, there's just not a lot of females in the industry. It's really a male-dominated industry, and it has been since radio and television and really newspaper started. It's just been a very male-dominated industry. But we are seeing more and more females have some big successes, and we're really excited about that. And one thing we've done is at the girls basketball state finals, we had a female in all three positions of our broadcast, of our live television broadcast, from play-by-play, analyst, and sideline, for the first time it's ever been done. And, we've really just been trying to find more female voices for female sports. We had females in softball, we had females in volleyball, we've had females in girls basketball, really just trying to allow those who are playing, those student athletes that are playing, see and hear somebody who looks like them. That's really important. I've got two daughters myself, and I want them to have people that they can look up to that look like them, sound like them. Not that there's anything wrong. Obviously, your guys' instructor, Mr. Janes, is the voice of the 500 and just like this iconic voice, and he's been doing it for so many years. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting right over there. Like, he really is just one of those pillars in Indiana broadcasting, which is amazing. And I hate to say, hey, you can't do this. I don't want you to do this event anymore because I want a female to fit in. But the thing is I know that he understands that we really do need to help build the next generation, but also the next generation also needs to be more than just, hey, there's a guy over here that wants to do this, right? So we're really working towards building, and that has been a large challenge, is trying to find those. Because in reality, if you're a female and you're good at what you're doing, Indianapolis is not a big market, right? We're still considered a small market. You want to be, because you want and we obviously, in the office, I also want your career to flourish. So I understand that you might just be in Indianapolis for a couple of years, and then you're going to move on to St. Louis or Dallas, or the dream is always LA and New York, right? The biggest markets in the United States, and that's what you want to do. You want to grow to that. Chicago, all those great markets, and we want that. So you're snatched up real quick, and we do see a lot of really talented people get pulled to other markets, which is a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing because we had them. So that means that somebody at these bigger markets wanted, we were able to have them here in Indianapolis, and we just have to cherish that moment. But so kind of trying to backfill those roles now, that's a really big challenge too.
What has been the most valuable thing you have learned during your time as a director?
I mean, I would say that, the first time you do something is not going to be perfect. The first time we did a pairing show for tennis wasn't perfect. Especially the first time we did a live show, we made errors. So, constantly being able to take a step back after it's over and say, okay, here's where we had some struggles, but here's where we succeeded, right? And so looking at it not just as, man, I really goofed this up and I really messed this one up, but looking at it as like, okay, here's where we have an opportunity to get better. I always like to look at, have you guys heard of SWOT analysis, right? The strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I always like to look at everything I do with the SWOT in mind. But the biggest one I always look at is that opportunities. And every time we have a mistake or something, that's an opportunity to get better. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned in this role is just like, we have to roll with the punches. We have to understand that anything can happen in live TV, live radio, anything can happen any day, anything can happen in this classroom today. I could say something right now that you're gonna have to edit out later, right? Because I said something I shouldn't have, or whatever it might be. But that's just an opportunity for us to get better in the future.
What's been one of the most memorable events you've covered during your career?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of great ones. I mean, I love basketball. So I love going to the basketball state finals. Football is just so much fun. I mean, you're in Lucas Oil, and you're the best teams in the state are playing. But seeing some of my friends do well has been great. I really enjoyed watching the Monrovia Bulldogs be there because I knew Mark was on the sideline for a couple of those, and I knew his son was on the sideline as well. And so I really enjoyed those. But really, some of the most rewarding has been. I'm sorry, I called him Mark, didn't I? I'm sorry, Mr. Janes. My apologies, guys. Edit that one out for me. But really, the part that I've really enjoyed is watching new sports begin, right? So girls wrestling last year, and then boys volleyball last year as well. Seeing something new is really fun to me. Because it's something new that we get to tackle. Like we get to figure out how to broadcast this. Now wrestling and volleyball we're already doing, girls volleyball we're already doing, boys wrestling. So it's pretty. It is kind of apples to apples in that regard, but we're in different venues. Now we get to take this big puzzle and put it together. Where are we going to put cameras? Where are we going to put talent? So that's the sort of thing that I really enjoy tackling, is bringing something new to the audience. And again, any of those pairing shows that we did that we hadn't done before was a lot of fun. But just seeing something that we're doing for our student athletes. The emerging sports program has been great because we've been able to introduce these new sports like boys volleyball and girls wrestling. And also now girls flag football and girls lacrosse. And I'm excited about trying to figure out how to bring those to the air as well. But I would say the most rewarding thing I've done over everything is doing unified flag football and unified track and field on the air. So unified is our partnership with Special Olympics. And we treat those broadcasts as broadcasts because that's what they are. These are state championships. We're playing for that big piece of wood that you have that's in the shape of Indiana, right? That big trophy and those, so we are playing for an actual state championship. So we're going to treat those as an actual state championship on IHSAATV.org as well. And that's been the most rewarding, is getting those emails that just say, thank you for doing this. This was great. And I've got actual voices of our state championships, like Greg Rakestraw and Lance Scheib have covered the past 4 or 5 unified flag football state championships. Those are guys who do my 6A and my actual football state championships, my traditional football that we do out of Lucas Oil, right? So we are taking this very serious. I've got Kurt Darling calling our unified track and field. Kurt calls our state basketball state championships on the radio. I mean, so I've got guys in place and treating these as actual state championships because they are actual state championships, and that's been very rewarding.
What does a typical day for you look like?
Well, no 2 day is the same, honestly. I mean, and I know everybody kind of says that, but you just never know what's going to happen. Or, you have to look at the calendar. Sometimes the calendar is rinse and repeat over year over year. I know I got to get graphics ready. I know I got to do whatever. But, like right now, not to date this podcast, but, we're doing our podcast, our own podcast, the IHSAA Insider, and we're trying to get Leanne Harden, who was a golfer from Martinsville. Not that because I went to Martinsville, but because she won 3 state championships as an individual in girls golf. She went on to play at Duke. She had a very successful professional career. So we're trying to schedule her for one of the interviews. So, trying to organize schedules and get everything together. So I wasn't doing this time last year, right? So every day is a little bit different. But of course, you get in the office, you answer your emails, and then you start prepping for the day, whatever the day brings. We do a lot of original content out of our studio. We have a great studio at the office. I give a lot of credit to Bobby Cox, former Commissioner Bobby Cox, who allowed me to take over space similar to what you guys did here and kind of make it my own. But then Commissioner Neidig, Paul Neidig, has really taken it and run with it. And it's fully functional now. We've got our own we've got our own control room with 2 sets inside the main studio space. It's the Vanderweilen family studio, so I'd be remiss if I didn't say something about a great mentor of mine and consultant of ours, Rick Vanderweilen, who has really helped outfit the studio with top of the line equipment. So, we're doing something at that studio every day, whether that be, like I said, original content podcasts, a pairing show recording, a recording for one of our schools who has asked for something. We do a lot of officials training sessions and different things that we can do there. We do a lot of coaches training. Rules interpretations, you name it. So no 2 days are alike, but it is a lot of video editing and video recording and, pumping things out.
So you seem like really busy like every day. So how do you manage to have a work life and a home life?
It is tough. It's tough sometimes. This job does ask you to work a lot of weekends. Sometimes it asks you, like in February, there's only 28 days in February, but 20 of those days in a row, I'm doing something for the IHSAA. I do have a wife and 4 kids at home, so I do really enjoy, because right now we're in the season of, we have sports. My daughters are in theater, so we're doing theater as well, which happens to be up at UND. So I live in Mooresville, it's up in UND. So I'm going back and forth. So there's just a lot. But the nice thing about the IHSAA is it does offer a lot of flexibility. I'm able to bring the kids into the office if I have to, and I'm able to take the office on the road if I have to. Like today, my office is a little bit on the road because I'm down at Monrovia High School, right? So it's tough. Work-life balance is a real thing. And there is a level of burnout that a lot of people can see, in their careers because of that balance. But it's an honor to work at the IHSAA. Everyone knows about the association. There's only 22 people in the office, and I'm blessed enough to be one of those 22 people. It is nice that somebody's always asking, hey, how can I help? And I am able to have interns, so that's nice. Interns are great, except for the fact that you have to train them, because they don't know your processes when they come in, right? Hopefully they have a little bit of knowledge of how to edit and how to shoot, but they don't always know your processes because you can't expect them to. And being an intern, there's part of that is a learning experience, right? They need to get something out of it as well. It's not just me as the association who gets something out of it. They need to get something out of it. So, so that is nice once you get them trained up, and then you can give some of those duties to an intern, maybe free up some of your time. But we have a really nice work-life balance right now at the IHSAA. Now it'll get really busy in October and November, and then again in February and March. I always say February is the worst month of the year because A, it's shorter, but B, we've got 6 state championships going on at once, and every weekend we're somewhere. We're in great venues, don't get me wrong, and the natatorium is amazing. Lucas Oil, not Lucas Oil, Gamebridge is incredible. I mean, we're into these great venues, but it's kind of a slog. You have to really get through it. You have to just lower your head and get it done, but it's really rewarding at the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
Where do you see high school sports broadcasting going in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a great question. I sit back and think about this a lot. I wish I had a great answer, but technology is just changing so rapidly, right? I mean, the ease of actually executing a broadcast, I mean, it's getting easier and easier every year. And when I say easier, obviously there's some technical things and there's equipment you need, but the actual have a laptop, have a camera, have a mixer, and then be able to hook it to the internet. that's really almost all you need anymore to do a broadcast. Now, obviously there's levels of quality that will come out of different broadcasts, and not everybody's Monrovia who's doing a phenomenal job doing live broadcast. But over the years, Monrovia is kind of a model I've used and said, hey, look at what they're doing there, and there's others as well, because there are different levels of broadcast. Mooresville's doing a great job. So where I see it going in the next 5-10 years, I want more and more schools to get involved. And like I said, there's 70 plus that are doing traditional broadcast. I love to see that number in the hundreds. Let's get triple digits here. Let's say, because that's an opportunity for you guys as students, to be a part of what you do here within the halls of Monrovia. I would have loved to play basketball at Martinsville, but I was a little too short, maybe a little too chubby, maybe a little too slow to play on the basketball team. But how I got involved? It's because I was part of the broadcast program, and we did every home game. We even went to away games and did some away games. And this was, again, not to date myself a little bit more, but this was back in 2003 and 2004 when it wasn't being done as much, right? We were having to take a lot more than you guys have to take right now. You guys can take a camera bag over your shoulder and carry a tripod and have a backpack that has all the rest of the equipment in it, right? So one person can carry everything in. Back then that wasn't the case, but we still got it done. So I in the next 5 to 10 years, I hope to see that continue to grow at the high school level, but then I hope that more people can see it, right? Yes, it's easy. Yes, we're on every appliance platform that you can have with Fire Stick and Roku and all those things. Yes, we're on every phone, but the internet is just still not in every community. There are a lot of communities who don't have what we consider high-speed internet at this point, right? So there are still some that struggle to see. I just hope that we can get it to more eyeballs as well. Get our product out there. We are a destination now. People come to IHSAA TV to watch, high school sports every day but Sunday. So we know we have a destination. I just want it to get to more people. And then just the way that they consume the content is rapidly growing. The other day we tried using AI to break down some games, and it wasn't the best, but it's starting to get there. And that's pretty crazy if you think about it. If we can take a 2-hour broadcast and condense it down to 30 minutes, that's digestible for somebody, right? Somebody can sit down and they can watch that. The Big Ten in 60, I think is what they call it. I've sat down and watched Big Ten games where they cut out all the fluff, right? And they cut it down and here are the plays. That's a lot of fun. That's really nice, a nice way to digest something in an on-demand setting. So I really hope that we can do more of that as well. And really, just the ease, I think, is what we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years. The accessibility, of people being able to watch it as well.
And lastly, what piece of advice would you give to the people listening?
I don't know who's listening, so it's probably a little bit of everybody. So I won't keep this on the broadcast side, but I always tell everybody, never say no to a conversation. The only reason I'm really doing what I'm doing today is, obviously I told you I started in high school, but I always wanted to talk to somebody. So I kept in contact with Mr. Janes when I wasn't doing something. I kept in contact with the people there at the IHSAA. And a lot of the things that I've done in my life is because I said yes to something. So always say yes, within reason, of course. You guys know how to use your best judgment. But then, never turn down a conversation. You never know where a conversation's going to go. I've been blessed enough, again, because of what my role is. I've worked for Fox when they come to Colts games. I've been able to do a lot of what somebody might call side gigs, if you will, and gotten work because of what I'm doing now and because I went and talked to somebody. It's a lot of fun, and it's really rewarding to be able to do what you're doing, but you never know where it's going to go as well. So just always keep an open mind, always chat with somebody if you have the opportunity, and then put yourself out there. It doesn't matter what you think you want to do in the future. If you don't put yourself out there, you're never going to know if that is what you want to do, but you're also never going to know what side path you might be able to take in your life, whether that be professionally, whether it be personally, whether that be where you want to go to school next, or that if you even want to go to school. Just keep an open mind and keep putting yourself out there.
Thank you for joining us, Heath. This is the Bulldog Bark, and join us for next episode.